So the question is, what's really true and what's not? Let me quickly talk to you about the SBA PPP second draw loan application line by line instructions. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today's conversation will focus on the second draw loan application line by line instructions. Now, this show has two sections. First, we have a top line overview of the second draw of a triple P. And then I'm going to give you specific instructions on how to apply for the PPP loan. So the thing here is that if you just want the line by line instructions, I'll say just skip the first section and go straight into the second. But frankly, I suggest you listen to the first section because you want to have all the updates you need to know to get the cash you need for your business. And before we get into the nitty-gritty here, please check out our research video. We do have a COVID-19 funding research methodology that sort of tells you more about our research into the whole disaster relief options currently available. Check this out. All right, folks, let's just get right into it. So the Paycheck Protection Program resumed, luckily, January 1st, 2021 at 9 a.m. Eastern, right? So the SBA is currently working with the U.S. Treasury Department to actually start granting loans again. So the agency began accepting applications on January 13th. So the program is open. And the cool thing here is that a lot of participating lenders are really, really eager to get into the program. And they've actually set aside $25 billion, and the government, the Biden administration, according to news reports, is going to increase the funding opportunities in conjunction with Congress. So what are the loan details here? Now, the thing here is that the second draw PPP loans can be used to help fund payroll costs, including benefits. And funds can also be used to pay for mortgage interest, rent, utilities, worker protection costs related to COVID-19, uninsured property damage caused by looting or vandalism during 2020, and certain supplier costs and expenses for operations. This is very cool. And what is the maximum loan amount? The the loan amount here, the maximum loan amount of a second draw PPP loan is 2.5 times average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll cost up to $2 million. So the maximum is $2 million. Now, for borrowers in the accommodation and food services sector, the maximum loan amount for a second draw PPP loan is 3.5 times average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll cost, again up to $2 million. The cool thing here is that who may qualify. So a borrower is generally eligible for the second round if the borrower previously received the first draw PPP loan and will or has used the full amount only for authorized uses. So the person must have been compliant with the law, and the borrower has no more than 300 employees. In other words, the borrower is a true small business according to the SBA's guidelines, and the borrower can demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. Very important. So how and when to apply? So you can actually apply for a second draw PPP loan from January 13 until March 31st, 2021 rather. And people are talking that by then Congress might actually reconsider extending the deadline if they see that, unfortunately COVID-19 is not really improving, like the situation is not getting better. Congress might actually extend the deadline. So SBA is currently accepting second draw PPP loan applications. That's really for sure. And you also have a full forgiveness terms. In other words, the loans that are made to eligible borrowers qualify for full loan forgiveness if during the 8 to 24-week covered period following loan disbursement, employee and compensation levels are maintained in the same manner as required for the first draw PPP loan. The loan proceeds are spent on payroll costs and other eligible expenses. Very important, folks. You want to use the money for things that relate to the business exclusively, and at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on payroll costs. So the whole idea of a PPP loan is to actually maintain the workforce in the U.S. So companies don't fire people, right? So what about targeted eligibility? This is an important element too. So a borrower is eligible for a second draw PPP loan, as I said before, if they use the money the money properly the first time around. They have 300 or fewer employees, and they have seen some reduction in their gross revenue. One thing I also want to say here is that even though the SBA has said that you can actually borrow up to $2 million, in reality, the agency has been very strict in terms of limiting how much a single borrower can receive. So we've seen in our research that the average amount hovers around $150,000 to $200,000. But it's still something, right? If you think about it, having this kind of loan with a 30-year maturity date, it's fantastic. So what about when to apply? I've already said that. You have now until March 31st, and how to apply. How do you really apply? I'm going to actually talk to you about that very, very soon. Okay, let's really get right into it. So this is the second section I was talking to you about. This is where I'm going to give you this SBA PPP second draw loan application line by line instructions. So we're showing you right now on the screen. If you need any information about the Triple P application, go to this link. We have the link on the screen right now, as long as how the website looks. This is coming straight from the SBA website, and this is the link to the page. And then we have another link to where you need to file the PPP loan application online. So again, we have a snapshot of the page on the screen right now, as well as the link. All right. So step one, entity legal structure. So if you have to file, you need to choose the corresponding legal structure. It's very important to understand here that you can only choose one. So you have various options. So sole proprietor, partnership, C corporation, S corporation, LLC, independent contractor, self-employed individual, 501c3 nonprofits, 501c6 organization, 501c19 veterans organization, housing cooperative, travel business, and other. It's very important that if you choose other, you need to attach an explanatory note indicating what other means. The whole thing about the PPP, the second draw loan application, is that you want to be as transparent as possible when dealing with the SBA, because they're dealing with millions of applications. So you don't want them to actually just look at your application and just toss it away, right? You want to provide everything from the get-go. So explain what other means. And one thing I also want to say is that make sure that you choose the legal structure that you have used in the last 2 years. If you have changed, let's say you've changed your legal structure in the last 30 days, you want to actually you want to attach an explanation telling the SBA what your current legal structure is and what it was in the last 2 years, if it has changed. Very important. Again, going back to the transparency concept that I just discussed. Step number 2, we have the entity information. Again, everything I'm telling you, those are line by line instructions, and you see this, and for every instructions, we have a snapshot of the page, and you can see it. But the whole application happens on the internet. It's done on the internet. It's done online, and I've given you the link before. So let's talk about the entity information. You got to provide key information about your organization, and you have to show DBA or trade name if applicable. So DBA stands for doing business as. You need to mention the year of establishment if applicable. You need to give the business legal name. This must be the name that you use for official business correspondence. It must be the name that you incorporated with at the state level. Very important. There has to be consistency between your federal, because the SBA is a federal agency, between your federal data and your state data. Very important. Okay. You need to provide your NICS code, and we're actually showing you right now on the screen how to search for your company's NICS code. So if you just need to go to www.naics.com/search. You just kind of put you can either put your industry, and the system will actually retrieve and give you the code, the NICS code that syncs with that's compatible with your industry. And you need to provide your business address. Pretty straightforward. Make sure that you do not put any PO box. The SBA has been very clear. They have denied people, or they have actually they have denied people, borrowers in the past, who have put PO box addresses. Do not put that. You need to put a residential address with a street, city, state, and zip code. You need to put your business TIN, your tax identification number. And this could be an EIN if the business is incorporated, or a social security number if you are self-employed and you're just a sole proprietor. All right, EIN stands for employer identification number. So you need to put the business phone, the primary contact, and the email address. So those are important elements, and make sure that everything has to be consistent. So whatever you put for the SBA, for this PPP second draw loan application, make sure it's the same info that actually is shown on your tax returns and other official correspondence you've had with the states or federal tax authorities. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about how to apply to the PPP second draw loan app, the loan, right? So I was just telling you that. So step number 3, we have the entity financial data. You got to be very clear here about your company's financial information. So you need to enter financial information about your entity to determine the loan amount you will qualify for. This is why you put in the info. The SBA needs to know how much they can actually grant you, how much loan they can approve you for. So you need to put the average monthly payroll and the loan request amount. So the loan request amount here equals the average monthly payroll times 2.5 times, or 3.5 times for next 72 applicants. And the loan, as I said earlier, may not exceed $2 million. And next 72 actually is the industry that focuses on accommodation and food services, right? So I'm talking about, so we have a snapshot on the screen. You can see on the screen right now. So accommodation, I'm talking about hotels, motels, and so on and so forth. Food services, you are talking about restaurants, shopping malls, eateries, and so on and so forth. So that industry has been hit hard, and the authorities believe they need to support that industry more. That's why they are granting 3.5 times the average monthly payroll in terms of the loan amount the borrower can qualify for. And so in terms of the entity financial data, you also need to put the number of employees, including affiliates. And remember that the cap here, the threshold here is 300. And you need to actually specify the purpose of the loan. And here you want to select all that apply. Everything that applies, you need to select that. So I'm talking about payroll, cost, rent, mortgage, interest, utilities, covered operations, expenditures, property damage, covered supplier cost, covered worker protection expenditures, and other. If you choose other, very important again, you want to attach an explanatory note indicating what other means. You also need to, if you were approved in the PPP first draw SBA, you need to provide an SBA loan number so they know if you've been good with the proceeds. You also need to show that you had a reduction in gross receipt of at least 25%. So basically, you need to put you can put the first quarter, like 2020 quarter. It can be the first quarter, 2021. It could be so you have to indicate gross receipt, reference quarter, and gross receipt. So the SBA just wants to have an idea of the drop you had in your revenue in order to better evaluate the financial hardship your organization is currently facing or could face soon, right? So the authorities wants to make sure that you actually need the money. Step number 4, you need to reference the applicant ownership. So the applicant here is a company, right? We're talking about PPP second draw loan application. This is a company, so you need to sort of talk about the owners. So you need to provide data about the people or entities who control or own the organization seeking the PPP loan. So here I'm talking about the owner, the name, the title, ownership percentage. You also need to put the TIN, the tax identification number, EIN for employer identification number, and social security number, and the address. So remember that a company can be owned by other companies, right? So that's why they're mentioning EIN for this in this case. So you also want, in step 5, you need to talk about compliance with the law. So the thing here is that we have a long list of, and we're showing this to you on the screen right now. You have a long list of questions where the authorities wants to make sure that you are actually, your business and the owners have been in compliance with the law. But the thing is, if you answer yes to questions 1, 2, 4, and 5, the loan will not be approved. The loan will be denied. So here the questions are on the screen. So is the applicant or any owner of the applicant presently suspended, debarred, proposed for debarment, declared ineligible, voluntarily excluded from participation in this transaction by any federal department or agency, or presently involved in any bankruptcy? Question number 1. Question number 2, has the applicant, any owner of the applicant, or any business owned or controlled by any of them, ever obtained a direct or guaranteed loan from SBA or any other federal agency that is A, currently delinquent, or B, has defaulted in the last 7 years or caused a loss to the government? If you answer yes here, you can't qualify for the loan. Question number 3, is the applicant or any owner of the applicant an owner of any other business, or have common management, including a management agreement with any other business? If yes, you need to list all such all such businesses, including the TINs if available, and you need to describe the relationship on a separate sheet identified as Addendum A. So it's the explanatory, what I call the explanatory note. All right. So so if you answer again, and question number 4 is the applicant if an individual or an individual owning 20% or more of the equity of the applicant presently incarcerated or for any felony presently subject to an indictment, criminal information, arraignment, or other means by which formal criminal charges are brought in any jurisdiction. So if you need to actually here, you need to initial on line 4, you need to initial to confirm your response. The government wants to make sure that you've read it and you are basically okay with it. And question number 5, within the last 5 years, for any felony, including involving fraud, bribery, embezzlement, or a false statement in a loan application or an application for federal financial assistance, or within the last year for any other felony, has the applicant, if an individual or any owner of the applicant, been convicted, pleaded guilty, pleaded nolo contendere, or commenced any form of parole or probation, including probation before judgment. So here also for question 5, you need to initial to confirm your response. The thing here is that those are, so question 1, 2, 4, and 5. There are other questions. You have question number 6, question number 7, and question number 8. And question number 6 is the United States the principal place of residence for all employees included in the applicant's payroll calculation above, right? And number 7, is the applicant a franchise? And number 8, is the franchise listed in SBA's franchise directory? If yes, you need to enter the SBA franchise identifier code on the line. So we're actually showing you, if you go, we're showing you a snapshot of the SBA franchise directory, and as well as the link where you can get the info if you so need it. And number 6, step 6, we're talking here about the certifications. Very important. So by signing below, you make the following representations, authorizations, and certifications. This is very important. This is where a lot of small business owners make the mistake of not reading. You need to read, and we're going to read it. And the reason why we're going to read it is because the SBA has denied plenty of applications in the past for people who have either certified something that was not true. So they said, oh yeah, I've read this, whatever, and I'm making the authorities, I'm making a representation, and it turned out they were actually lying. So here you have to certify that you have read the statements included in the form, including the statements required by law and executive orders, and that you understood them. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but one thing that I want you to pay attention to is basically the fact that you have several representations here, but you want to make sure that you use the loan proceeds only for business-related purposes as specified in the loan application and consistent with the Paycheck Protection Program rules, including the prohibition of using loan proceeds for lobbying activities and expenditures. So if an applicant is a news organization that became eligible for a loan under Section 317 of the Economic Aid to Hard-Hit Small Businesses, Nonprofits, and Venues Act, the proceeds of the loan will be used to support expenses at the component of the business concerns that produces or distributes locally focused or emergency information. So here, the thing here is that if you are a news organization, you can't be playing at the national level. You can't use the funds to actually distribute or produce nationally focused information, because the SBA is thinking that you are actually just you're too big to actually qualify for the loan. If you can produce and distribute content at the national level, you must be a biggie already, right? And the thing here is that you also have to certify that you understand the SBA encourages you to purchase, to the extent feasible, American-made equipment and products. Of course, the agency is not going to actually micromanage you and say, hey, don't buy foreign goods and services. But it's just that we are in a situation of, we are in an emergency, and in terms of the economic disaster we're currently in, and any relief funds should be used to support the local economy at least. in terms of supporting in terms of being patriotic. But this is another debate. I'm not getting into that right now. And one thing you have to, and the next thing you need to actually mention here is that the authorized representative of the applicant must certify in good faith to all of the below by initialing next to each one. So when you are on this page on the website in the application process, you need to initial. You need to initial next to every statement, every representation. Very important. Don't forget. Again, the FBA has been known to actually deny people who were not taking these things seriously. And it's very simple because the agency has to review hundreds of thousands of applications. All right. So one thing, I'm not going to go through the whole list here, but there are a few things I just want to draw your attention to. And you have one lines that said that the applicants, aka the business, is not an organization for which an entity created in or organized under the laws of the People's Republic of China or the Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong, or that has significant operations in the People's Republic of China or the Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong, owns or hold, directly or indirectly, not less than 20% of the economic interest of the business concern or entity, including as equity shares of a capital or profit interest in a limited liability company or partnership, or that retains as a member of the board of directors of the business concern a person who is a resident of the People's Republic of China. Now, this was legalese. I'm just going to break it down for you. In simple everyday English, it just means that your company cannot have ties to China. And very simply, whether you're doing business in a significant way with China or Hong Kong, or you have someone on your board or someone in your management team or in your ownership team who actually lives in China or has some kind of ties to China. So this is very important. You have to make sure that you take care of that, because if it turns out that you actually have such a person or you have such a tie, you might be denied. Another thing I want to pay attention to here is the fact that any false statement, aka lie, any lie that you put on this official application might actually cause, if it's shown that it was it was just a falsehood that was actually done intentionally, there could be imprisonment of not more than 30 years and or a fine of not more than $1 million. What I'm trying to say here is that you just want to be as clear, as honest as possible, and do the things so that you can get your loan. And one thing you have to understand. So once you have done everything, you need to actually now sign. Very important. So speaking of signature here, you have, and this is step number 7. This is the last step. And once you do that, you just hit submit, and the application goes to the SBA, and they actually review everything. So you need to actually, you need the signature of authorized representative of applicants. You need to have the date, the print name, the title. Very important. All right. Okay, folks, this is it for today's conversation. I was talking to you about the SBA PPP second draw loan application line by line instructions. Again, the whole application happens on the internet. I gave you the link to that SBA website where you can just apply there. And I just went through you with all the steps that you will be asked for. You'll be asked while going through the application. So I spoke to you about the entity legal structure, how to fill that section, the entity information, how to fill it, the entity financial data, the applicant ownership, compliance with the law, certifications, and all the signatures that are needed. Thank you so much for your attention. Good luck with everything. Good luck with your funding request. And I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.